You have Neanderthal genes. If your ancestors came from anywhere outside of sub-Saharan Africa, you have them. It's not a lot, maybe 1 to 4% of your total DNA, but it's there. A ghost in your machine, a whisper from a long extinct kind of human. For a long time, we thought of Neanderthals as slow, brutish, and simple. The quintessential cavemen. We, Homo sapiens, were the smart ones, the clever ones who outcompeted them and took over the world. But the story is more complicated than that. We didn't just replace them, we met them. We lived alongside them for thousands of years, and we had children with them. Those children, our distant ancestors, carried a mix of DNA, and they passed that mix down through the generations, all the way to you. So the question is, what did we get from them? What does that small percentage of Neanderthal DNA actually do? A common idea is that it made us stronger. Neanderthals were famously robust. They were shorter and stockier than us, with massive chests, thick bones, and powerful muscles. So they were built for a hard life in a cold world. It seems logical that inheriting some of their genetic toolkit would give us a physical boost. But is it true? Did Neanderthal genes make us stronger? The answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's a story of trade-offs, of ancient advantages becoming modern problems, and of what strength really means in the long game of survival. To understand this, we need to go back in time. Imagine the world about 60,000 years ago. Modern humans, our direct ancestors, were beginning to move out of Africa. They were adapted for a warm climate. They were tall, lean, and built for endurance. Their bodies were efficient at shedding heat. As they moved north into the Middle East, and then into Europe and Asia, they entered a new world. It was colder, the seasons were more extreme, the diseases were different, and it was already occupied. The Neanderthals had been living there for hundreds of thousands of years. They were the original Eurasians. They had evolved in that environment. Their bodies were perfectly suited to it. Their stocky build conserved heat. Their large noses may have helped warm and humidify cold, dry air. Their muscles and bones were built for power, for hunting large, dangerous animals up close. They were survivors. When our ancestors met them, they were the newcomers, the immigrants. They were not as well adapted to this new land. Interbreeding with the locals, the Neanderthals, wasn't just a random event. It was a shortcut. It was a way to pick up useful genetic traits without waiting thousands of years for them to evolve from scratch. Think of it like downloading a survival guide for a new country directly into your DNA. This process is called adaptive introgression. It's a fancy term for borrowing good genes from another species. And it's a key part of our story. We picked up Neanderthal genes that helped us survive in the north. But what were those genes, and did they relate to pure physical strength? Let's start with the most obvious definition of strength, muscle, and bone. Neanderthals were powerlifters, not marathon runners. Their bones were thicker and denser than ours. Their muscle attachment points were larger, indicating more powerful muscles. They had a wider pelvis and a barrel-shaped chest. Everything about their skeleton screams power and resilience. So, did we inherit any of that raw physical prowess? The evidence here is surprisingly tricky. We can't just point to one strength gene from Neanderthals that everyone with European or Asian ancestry has. It doesn't work that way. The genes that build a body are complex and interact with each other in countless ways. Some studies have looked for links between Neanderthal gene variants and physical traits in modern humans. They found some interesting connections. For example, certain Neanderthal DNA sequences seem to influence skull shape, making it slightly more elongated, a subtle echo of the Neanderthals' long, low skull. But this is a far cry from inheriting their massive brow ridge. What about muscle? This is where it gets more speculative. Some researchers have suggested that Neanderthal variants of certain genes might influence muscle composition or function. A gene called dystrophin, for example, is crucial for muscle integrity. Neanderthals had a slightly different version of this gene complex. It's possible that their version contributed to their unique muscle physiology here, but proving that inheriting their version gives a modern human a specific, measurable strength advantage is very difficult. The effect of any single gene is often tiny, and the Neanderthal DNA we carry is scattered across our genome in small fragments. You might have a Neanderthal variant for one gene related to muscle, while someone else has a different one. It's not like we inherited their entire blueprint for building a body. We just have a few random pages from their instruction manual. Furthermore, evolution has continued to work on us for the past 40,000 years. After the interbreeding events, our own lineage continued to adapt. Some Neanderthal genes that were initially useful might have been weeded out later. Others might have been kept, but their effects modified by our own evolving Homo sapiens genes. So the idea that we got a direct upgrade to our biceps or our bone density from Neanderthals is probably too simple. There isn't a clear smoking gun. But that doesn't mean their DNA didn't make us stronger in other, more fundamental ways. We just need to broaden our definition of strength. Strength isn't just about how much you can lift. In evolutionary terms, strength is about survival. It's the ability to fight off disease, to withstand the elements, and to have healthy children who can do the same. And in this arena, the contribution of Neanderthal DNA is undeniable. It made us profoundly stronger. The most powerful evidence comes from our immune system. When our ancestors left Africa, they encountered a whole new set of pathogens. The viruses and bacteria in Europe and Asia were different from what their immune systems were trained to fight. Neanderthals, having lived there for millennia, had immune systems that were already tuned to these local threats. By interbreeding with them, we got a massive immune system upgrade. We inherited a whole suite of genes that helped us fight off these new infections. Scientists have found that some of the most common and impactful Neanderthal genes in modern humans are related to immunity. For example, we inherited several key genes called toll-like receptors, or TLRs. These are like the sentinels of the immune system. They sit on the surface of our cells and are one of the first lines of defense, recognizing invaders like bacteria and fungi and triggering an immune response. People of Eurasian descent have Neanderthal versions of the TLR1, TLR6, and TLR10 gene cluster. These variants seem to provide a more robust response to certain pathogens. It was a life-saving advantage for our ancestors stepping into a new germ-filled world. They were stronger because they didn't die from a local infection. This is where the idea of an evolutionary shortcut becomes so clear. It would have taken our ancestors many generations to evolve these defenses on their own. Interbreeding gave them a ready-made solution. It was a critical piece of the puzzle that allowed modern humans to successfully colonize the rest of the world. But the immune system isn't the only area where we got a survival boost. Neanderthal genes also helped us adapt to the physical environment of Eurasia. The most obvious challenge was the sun, or lack of it. Our ancestors came from equatorial Africa, where the sun is intense. Their dark skin was rich in melanin, which protects against harmful UV radiation. As they moved north, the UV levels dropped dramatically. Dark skin became a disadvantage because it makes it harder to produce vitamin D, which our bodies synthesize using sunlight. Vitamin D is essential for bone health and immune function. Neanderthals had lived in these low UV environments for a very long time and had likely evolved lighter skin. They found that modern humans inherited several Neanderthal gene variants associated with skin pigmentation. These genes influence keratinocytes, the cells that make up the outer layer of our skin. They affect how our skin tans in response to UV light. In essence, we borrowed Neanderthal genes to help our bodies adjust to a new level of sunlight. This adaptation made us stronger and healthier in our new home. The same goes for hair. Keratin is also the building block of hair, and we inherited Neanderthal variants of genes that influence hair type and color. Thicker hair could have provided better insulation against the cold. The story here is complex, but it points to the same theme we use Neanderthal DNA to fine-tune our bodies for life outside of Africa. The cold itself was a major hurdle. Neanderthals were built for it. Besides their heat-conserving body shape, their metabolism was likely adapted for a colder climate. And it seems we picked up some of their tricks. Some Neanderthal gene variants found in modern humans are involved in fat metabolism. One gene in particular seems to influence how our bodies store and break down fats. This could have been incredibly useful in an Ice Age environment where calories were scarce and staying warm was a constant struggle. Having a more efficient way to use fat as fuel would have been a significant survival advantage. That is a form of strength. So if you look at strength as the ability to survive and thrive in a new harsh environment, the answer is a resounding yes. Neanderthal genes made us stronger. They gave us a pre-adapted immune system. They helped our skin and hair adjust to new climates. They may have even fine-tuned our metabolism for a different diet and temperature. Without this genetic inheritance, the expansion of modern humans across the globe might have been much slower, or it might have failed altogether. But this is where the story gets its modern twist. The genetic gifts from our Neanderthal cousins came with strings attached. A gene that was a huge advantage 40,000 years ago can become a liability in the 21st century. The world has changed, but our ancient DNA hasn't. Let's go back to that supercharged immune system. Those toll-like receptors that were so good at fighting off ancient bacteria. In our modern hygienic world, they can sometimes overreact. They can mistake harmless substances like pollen or dust for dangerous invaders. The result is allergies. Studies have shown a direct link between the Neanderthal TLR variants and a higher risk of allergies like hay fever. Your immune system is primed for a level of threat that no longer exists. It's like having a home security system that's so sensitive it goes off every time a cat walks by the window. This hypervigilant immune response is also linked to a higher risk of autoimmune diseases like lupus and Crohn's disease, where the body's defenses turn on itself. So the same genes that made your ancestors strong enough to survive a prehistoric plague might be the reason you have to take antihistamines every spring. It's a classic evolutionary mismatch. The solution for one problem becomes the cause of another. The same mismatch applies to other traits. That Neanderthal gene variant that helped with blood clotting would have been a lifesaver for a hunter who got gored by a mammoth. Faster clotting means you're less likely to bleed to death from an injury. But in our modern world, where we live longer and are less likely to suffer from traumatic injuries, that same gene variant increases the risk of dangerous blood clots that can lead to stroke or pulmonary embolism. An ancient strength becomes a modern weakness. The story continues with metabolism. Genes that helped our ancestors store fat more efficiently to survive long, cold winters and periods of famine are not so helpful today. In a world of fast food, sugary drinks, and sedentary lifestyles, those same genes can predispose us to obesity and type 2 diabetes. The genetic toolkit for surviving scarcity is a disaster in an age of abundance. Even our mental health might be affected. Some Neanderthal gene fragments have been linked to a higher risk of depression and other mood disorders. Why? Scientists aren't sure. One theory is that these genes might be linked to circadian rhythms, our internal body clocks. Neanderthals evolved at higher latitudes with more variable daylight hours. The genes that help them cope with long, dark winters might disrupt our mood and sleep patterns in a world of artificial light and 24/7 schedules. Another possibility is that these genes are related to the immune system's influence on the brain, but the connection is still being explored. And there are other more peculiar links. One Neanderthal gene variant has been associated with a higher likelihood of nicotine addiction. It's a strange and unexpected connection. Obviously, Neanderthals weren't smoking, but the gene in question is related to neurotransmitter receptors in the brain. It had some other function in the past, but in the presence of a modern substance like nicotine, it creates a vulnerability. This is the dual nature of our Neanderthal inheritance. It is a package deal. We got the good with the bad. We received a powerful toolkit for survival in the past, but we are still dealing with the consequences today. The genes didn't change, the world around them did. So, where does this leave us with our original question? Did Neanderthal genes make us stronger? If we're talking about pure, brute physical strength, bigger muscles, thicker bones up, the evidence is weak and speculative. We are not physically Neanderthals. Our own evolutionary path since we met them has shaped us into the creatures we are today, leaner, more endurance-focused, and with a very different physique. While some Neanderthal genes might subtly influence our physical makeup, they didn't turn us into a species of powerlifters. But if we define strength as resilience, as the sheer ability to survive, then the answer is an absolute, unequivocal yes. The Neanderthal genes we carry were not random junk. The ones that have stuck around for 40,000 years are the ones that helped our ancestors. They were potent survival tools, they fortified our immune systems against new diseases, they helped our bodies adapt to less sun and more cold. They were a critical factor in our success as a species. They made us strong enough to conquer the planet. The irony is that this ancient strength now contributes to some of our modern frailties. Our allergies, our autoimmune diseases, our vulnerability to diabetes and blood clots, these can all be seen as the echoes of an ancient evolutionary bargain. We took a deal to survive the Ice Age, and we're still reading the fine print today. This doesn't mean our Neanderthal inheritance is a curse, it's just a part of our history. It's a reminder that we are not a single, pure lineage. We are a mosaic, a hybrid. We are the product of ancient meetings on a vast and unforgiving continent. The story of our DNA is a story of connection. Learning that we carry a piece of the Neanderthals inside us changes how we see them. They are not some failed, dead-end branch of the family tree. They are part of us. Their legacy lives on in our blood, our skin, our immune responses. They contributed to our success. And the story is still unfolding. Scientists are still mapping the Neanderthal genome and comparing it to ours, discovering new links and new insights every year. We are just beginning to understand the full extent of their contribution to our biology. Each new discovery adds another layer to the complex and often contradictory answer. So are we stronger for it? Yes, we were made stronger for the world of the past. That strength helped us get to where we are now, and now we are faced with the challenge of understanding and managing that ancient legacy in the modern world we've built. The Neanderthal ghost in our machine is not a simple source of power or weakness. It's a part of our complex identity, a testament to a journey that began long ago, when two different kinds of humans met under an ice age sky and created a new future for us all.